Hello and welcome to Network. Today we have our hands on something that not too many people out there have their hands on. Now my brother's workstation has been sitting in our basement without a graphics card for probably the last year. And since it's an X99 board, you have to have a discrete graphics card in order for it to post. And getting graphics cards nowadays is next to impossible. Now, you may be wondering, why is he throwing a 3070 in an X99 board? Well, you see, this is a workstation, and it has an Intel Xeon E5-1650 V3. And obviously, this card is going to be bottlenecked. But my brother, he doesn't care. He wants to have a modern GPU in his rig. I told him he'd be okay with a 2060 or a 2070 Super, but hey, it's his money. A benefit he will get from having a 30 series graphics card is AVI or AV1 decoding, so that's a benefit. But anyway, this is RTX 3070, and these 30 series graphics cards are next to impossible to get. They sell out when they're available, and they're upmarketed on eBay from scalpers. So this is a really hard card to get, and you may be wondering, how did my brother get his hands on this? Well, he got tired of waiting and he caved. So he dropped $2,000. I mean, that's a big waste of money. He way overspent, and he knows that. And this card's going to be bottlenecked anyway. But hey, he's like, I need it. I don't want to, don't want to spend the money on a 2000 series graphics card. Might as well get a 3000 series while I'm at it. No, I mean, it's his build, but he spent $2,000. He just caved in. He bought it from a scalper. Luckily, this is fully authentic, and it was shrink wrapped and everything. We ran both the serial number of the on the box and on the actual graphics card. So we've already taken this out of the box and put it back in there. So that's why it's not sealed right now. But so we went with the MSI GeForce RTX 3070 Ventus 3X, which means it has 3 fans, and it's the OC edition, which means overclocked. So it has 5,888 CUDA cores. Its core clock is 1755 megahertz. Memory speed's 14 gigabit per second. It has 8 gig of GDDR6 VRAM. DisplayPort times 3, version 1.4a, and it has a single HDMI 2.1 port. The TDP of this card is 220 watts, so it chews up quite a bit of power. I mean, all these 3000 series GPUs are power hogs, and it requires a times 2 8-pin, and we actually have a cable mod cable. It took us like a week or so to get that cable shipped in from Cable Mod, but you want to make sure when you get your cable, it's on Cable Mod, it's called a bridged PCIe 8-pin. Bridge means it gives you 2 of them. That's it as far as the specs. I don't want to go too deep. I want to get this card unboxed and put into the system. MSI also gave us like this pamphlet, which I don't know how well you guys can see it, which was inside the box. So we'll look at that too. So let's go ahead and take a look at the actual box itself. So on the front we have MSI overclocked Ventus 3 times. This is NVIDIA's Ampere architecture, ray tracing, DLSS. It's a 3070, and it is overclocked. On the side, you just have your serial number and stuff like that. And don't worry, we have already registered it on MSI's website. Now here's the thing. Here's something when you buy from scalpers. Oops. When you buy from scalpers, whether it be a scalped PS5 or any of these graphics cards, a lot of manufacturers might not honor the warranty because your receipt is from eBay. You didn't buy it from an official retailer. You bought it from a third party, aka a scalper. So just something to be careful of. I mean, my brother, he was able to upload the eBay invoice and have it registered, but something you might want to do is email or message the scalper, which I don't support paying scalpers money, but my brother, he was like, I have no choice. That's the only way I'm going to be able to get my hands on a graphics card, and he did it. And I told him, don't leave any feedback. Don't give them a positive feedback. For what they're doing is, pretty much unethical. It's very douchebaggery. But he didn't leave any feedback. Now, if they would have scammed him, he would have given him a negative. But we certainly aren't going to give him a positive for what they're doing. But yeah. So you might want to ask the original the scalper, hey, can I have your actual invoice that you got from Newegg, Amazon, or wherever the hell they scalped it from with their fucking bots, right? But anyway, on the back of it, that's what the back looks like. It's a 3-fan design, which, when you're using these power-hungry high TDP 3000 series graphics cards, you're going to want to have good cooling. So I would go with a 3-fan one, even if it's a 3060. And it just shows, all the marketing material. The bottom doesn't really show much, anything important. So let's go ahead and unbox it. So there's a better view. Let's go ahead and unbox it. This looks like some kind of support bracket, because these things are heavy. I'm not sure how to go about installing this, but we'll look at that later, potentially. So that looks like that's all that's in the box is this support bracket, the GPU, and there was this this like flyer, this packet that I was telling you guys about earlier. So you will definitely want to register your graphics card on MSI's site. Get that registered. Installation guide. It tells you how you go about installing the bracket. Oh, so the bracket it screws down to the other slots if they're available. I like how on the system requirements it says Windows 10, but get this. On NVIDIA's site, they do have Windows 7 drivers for the 3000 series. So that was all it was in that packet. They give you that big packet, but the things inside are so small. So we might install that bracket. We'll see. We might not have enough coverage for it. I tell you what, this bad boy, it's a big one. So there's a close-up shot of the graphics card and what it looks like. I'll tell you what, this heatsink, if you look at the heatsink on this thing, it's thick. This is a big, thick boy. I mean, now remember, before you install it, you want to take off the plastic piece on the slot there. But yeah, it's probably, I'd say, a little over a foot long. Yeah, that's what it looks like. Has 3 display ports and an HDMI port, and it's 2 brackets wide. Let's go ahead and install it into Abe's workstation where it will be bottlenecked. Okay, so we now have Abe's workstation on the bench. This is an MSI X99A workstation board, 128 gig of ECC RAM. You got a 10 gig fiber NIC in there. You got a Lynx AS16E card for professional audio equipment. You got some USB brackets to utilize all your USB ports. It's running Intel Xeon E5-1650 V3, which I believe is 6 cores, 12 threads, base clock of 3.5 gigahertz, 3 optical drives, 2 Blu-ray drives, 1 supports Libre firmware. You got 3 SSDs installed. You got 1 terabyte Samsung 860 Pro, the best SSD money can buy. And then you have a Samsung, I believe it's an 860 QVO. It's an 8 terabyte one for his game drive, which this isn't really the computer to game on. It's more of a workstation, but I guess he's going to play some games on the side. And we have a NVMe drive in here, an M.2 one. It's a Samsung 970 Pro 1 terabyte NVMe drive. So we got some high quality Samsung SSDs in here. We're rocking an 850 watt Seasonic Prime titanium. We're using Noctua fans. Yeah, it's a pretty decked out system as far as the workstation's concerned. So yeah, he plans on driving 3 27-inch 2K monitors at 140 hertz. Yeah, right. But hey, we'll see what happens, right? I told him what to expect, but we'll see. But anyway, let's go ahead and install the GPU. Of course, I'll get you guys up there a little bit tighter so you guys can see. Hopefully, I won't be blocking too much. So the GPU's installed. It's definitely a big boy. So screwed both the 2 brackets on. See, this sits right up against this fan, so when you push this through, you got to be careful about that. It's a big boy. Now, it does have a support bracket, but here's the thing. We don't have enough clearance for the support. I don't think we have enough clearance for it. It won't. There might be. I have to look at the bracket, but there is one available, but the thing's too thick for it. So unless there's like an indentation on it, but I'll have to look at the support bracket because right below we have our 10 gig fiber NIC. That's a big boy. Of course, we got to plug in the two 8-pin PCIe power, which we have our cable mod cable for that. And then it's just a matter of will it post? Did we break anything? Now, when I put this in, I did hear like a pop. Hopefully that was just that click on the actual PCI Express bus. You know how you have a little locking mechanism? So hopefully that's what was made that pop. Or it could have just been this fan when I was pushing this back in there. So hopefully it's okay. We'll see. But yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and look at that support bracket and see if I can add that right here, but I don't think we have enough room, enough clearance for it. And then I'll go ahead and get the cable mod cables and connect those, and then we'll tidy up some cables, put the side panels back on, and see if it posts. Okay, so the actual support bracket, you'd have to unscrew like every single screw down this entire expansion bus, and there's not enough clearance. The way they designed this, the actual shroud of the GPU is like too thick for it. The clearance it's not there. We can't add that support bracket. But that's how they had it. Is they just you add it to additional ones, and it kind of just goes in there, kind of like it mounts in there using the other expansion buses, and it just helps support it. But you can't do it from the ground up. It's not one of those type. So I don't know. It doesn't look that bad. I mean, yeah, it's a big boy, but there's not much I can do about that. But yeah, hopefully this isn't shorting anything out on the back there. So now it's time to install the cable mod cables, and we'll see how that goes. Oh my goodness, this thing is such a hassle. These cables are so big and thick, and they're a bit too long. And if I go behind the motherboard tray, too short. So the way I have to do it looks really fucking sloppy. These cables are so thick. There's some slack. There's some not slag, but you know what I mean. Where it slopes down a little bit. Ah, fuck. That's why I wanted to route the cables up through here, so the cables wouldn't be putting a downward pressure on the fucking card. But either way I fucking go, it's not a win-win situation. Like I said, this card is not really meant for this kind of... And I don't know what the cable tie this to. It's like, maybe I could have it go up like this a little bit. Yeah. Might zip tie that to that. Get some pressure off of it. Sorry for this motherboard. There we go. GPU should be fully installed, connected. Now all we gotta do is put the case panels back on, fire it up, and see what happens. Okay, so the billion-dollar question is, will it post? So we got the GPU installed, got the power in as good as I can get. Not the cleanest work I've done. I think we could have gotten away with maybe a shorter cable, but hey, the way I zip tied it, it does pull put some pressure off of the GPU. This kind of helps hold it up a little bit better. So I got a nice good old Dell PS2 keyboard laying here. Just some shitty HP USB mouse. And we're hooked up to my Acer monitor using DisplayPort. Got power applied. Let's go ahead and flip the power supply to the on direction. So no sparks went flying. Don't smell any smoke. That's a good first sign. And we're now going to press the power button on the front. See what happens. So all the fans work. With the two front fans work. The back fan works. The CPU fan works. None of them are spinning really, really fast. These MSI, these workstation boards, they take a while to boot up. I might need to change my source on the monitor to DisplayPort. There we go. Sorry about that. Do we have an image? We have an image. Woo! Mellanox Connect X. Oh, MSI workstations. It's talking about the Mellanox Connect X. That's just all network boot shit. That's normal. So I am getting an image out of the graphics card, so that's good. And everything's lighting up. Those fans are quite loud. Maybe it's because they've been sitting down here. They probably have a little bit of dust on them. So this is all normal. We do have an image on the screen. I don't know how well you guys can see that. So I'm going to go ahead and restart this. And I'm going to hit the delete key to enter the BIOS. Like I said, these machines, they take a while. The MSI X99A workstation board takes a while to post because there's so much going on with it. Yeah, I can smell the dust. It's upsetting my allergies a little bit. So you hit the delete key several times during post, and that should throw us into the BIOS. Yeah. There we go. We're into the BIOS. Beautiful. Look at that, guys. So it works. We're able to post. I noticed the BIOS code says AB. Usually it's supposed to say the CPU temp, but it might be saying that because we are currently in the BIOS right now. But our CPU temp says 34 degrees Celsius. That's normal. Motherboard temp 24. 3.50 gigahertz. Base clock. Sorry about the fucking furnace kicking on there. We're running BIOS version. Looks like S.10C. Don't know what the hell that is, but it's 2016, so that's outdated. So we got the E5-1650 V3 at 3.50 gigahertz. We have 120 gig of RAM. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a lot of stuff in the back end. I'm going to update the BIOS, reset it, defaults. Then I'm going to do some RAM tweaking. I'll do a bunch of BIOS configurations. We'll install the operating system, install drivers, which won't be, none of that will be in this video. And then we'll go ahead and benchmark this on a bottleneck system, right? So we got 3070 and a workstation. And we're talking 2011 V3 socket. And this isn't the best Xeon for this socket. There is an upgrade Xeon, but we're still waiting for it to come down in price. I'll overlay the upgrade Xeon. It will give us 2 additional cores, and it will turbo up to 4 gigahertz. Still, you're not going to get the most out of this GPU. You really need to have a really, really high clock speed for that. You need to have like a 10900K or a new Ryzen, like a 3950X or whatever. You have to have a really, really excellent single core CPU to get the most out of a 3000 series GPU like this. I mean, it's being bottlenecked. It's probably going to perform around, I'm going to say 2060 to 2070 super performance. I think that's probably where we're going to, around the performance we'll get out of this with this existing CPU. If we get the upgrade Xeon, we might be able to get, you know, a fair bit more, but you're not going to get the best out of this. And he's going to be driving this at 2K, 3 2K monitors at 140 hertz. Psh, he's dreaming. But he knows this is he's going to eventually use this as just a workstation only and a computer to do everything else. And we're going to have an ultimate gaming PC that's just going to be for gaming. It's going to have the best GPU, the best CPU, everything that's going to be geared towards ultimate gaming performance. This right here is geared towards being a kick-ass workstation. And he kind of copied my workstation configuration because this is the configuration, well, I had a 2060, but this is the configuration I had for my workstation. And the reason why I went with the X99 board and this platform is because it was the last best platform for Windows 7, but that's kind of mute now because he's a gamer. He's not going to be using Windows 7. He's going to be using Windows 10, so, you know. But, you know, this is a good system to have. It's definitely going to last you a long time, and there's still some things you can upgrade in it. Of course, we maxed the RAM out, but there is a couple CPU upgrades that can be done to it to get a bit more performance out of it. And you'd always upgrade storage and stuff like that. But as far as GPU performance, there's no more upgrades you could really do on this. Because the socket, you know, the socket's just... Intel doesn't make better CPUs for the socket. But it's still going to be a really good workstation and, you know, desktop computer for him, definitely. So we'll just hover back over here so you guys can see it again. I'll zoom out maybe. So there's the workstation on the bench. And of course we have the side panel off because it's never good when you do your first boot. It's never good to boot it with the side panel on, right? That's the myth. That's the legend, right? Oh, I'll also give you guys a shot of the back of this before we go so you guys can see all the I/O going into this. So I'll go ahead and shut this down now. Let me go into advanced mode. Where's advanced? Oh, there's easy mode. So 3.50 gigahertz. See, we got all... The RAM is maxed out on this board. And that's another thing. Gaming, you don't really want to be on slower ECC RAM. And see, this will say 2666 megahertz, but actually, due to the memory controller of the E5-1650 V3, it downclocks to 2133. So we'll have to tweak some RAM timings to get better cast latency and stuff like that. But you know, it's not optimal to game on on server gear, you know, on ECC RAM and stuff like that, because we're in AHCI mode. So it sees our Pioneer Blu-ray drive, our Lighton iHas, our Asus Blu-ray drive. It sees our Samsung 860 Pro. It sees our Samsung 970 Pro. Fan curves, default fan curves. I might have to adjust them a little bit because it's kind of crazy. But I'll go into the board viewer. Where the hell is that at again? Board Explorer. Yeah, here we go. Oh, here it is. Samsung 870 QVO 8 terabyte. It sees it. Yep, we got Asus Blu-ray drive, 860 Pro, iHas. Okay. Does it see the M.2 drive? And see, some BIOSes won't report the M.2 drive sometimes. It's just weird. That's how they are. So it sees our Lynx AS16E running at ×1. Oh, okay. That's probably okay. Sees our 10 gig Mellanox Connect X2 fiber card running at ×8. That's right. It sees our NVIDIA Corporation running at ×8. It should be running at ×16. Well, we'll see. We'll see what's going on. Front panel, all the RAM, CPU, PS2 keyboard, sees the mouse. Okay. Yeah, I don't know why the oh, it might be running at ×8 just because we're in the BIOS. That's something I'll look at once I actually have the OS installed and we have the driver installed. We'll make sure it's running at ×16. But this is PCI Express 3.0 because it's, older board. 4.0 just recently came out, but like I said, it shouldn't be an issue. I mean, we're bottlenecking anyway. But anyway, guys, that's where I'm going to wrap it here. Oh, I am going to show you guys the back before I go. So let me go ahead and power this down and disconnect it and show you guys the back. Okay, so here's the back of the workstation. Let me see if I can get the focus on there. I don't know if it's focused or not. How's that look, guys? So that's the back of the workstation. Of course, I'll get you some close-ups. You can obviously see there's a lot of stuff going on this workstation. You got a lot of I/O. I think he has, what is it, 16 or 18 USB ports available. a bit of an upgrade over a laptop, right? Let's see if I can get you zoomed in here. Yeah. So as you can see, we have two USB 2.0s and two USB 3.0s and two USB 2.0s. You're like, why do you have these in here? These are just expansion brackets. And the reason why I put these in here is because on some cases, they might only give you two 2.0s and two 3.0s on the front, but your actual motherboard has 4 of each. So you have two 3.0s and two 2.0s on a motherboard header that aren't being utilized. You're just wasting them. You're throwing those 4 ports away. So you just get yourself a little bracket that plugs into those USB headers on the motherboard, and now you have those available to you. You're not wasting your ports. You're not just throwing them in the trash. Nobody else would think about this except a real professional like me. I think things through. I think everything through. I'm like, you have 4 more USB ports available on your motherboard headers. Why throw them in the trash? Why waste them? Get these brackets. They're like $10 a piece, $9 a piece. Pop them in there. You're good to go. Now, Abe had trouble with the 2.0 bracket. He bought 3 of them, and they've all been knockoffs. Not the right brand. They've been a scam from Amazon. So Abe's been, like, fucked over. I ordered it. Boom. Works every fucking time. So I think Abe's going to have me order stuff from now on. But you definitely want to have those. I mean, do you just want to throw your USB ports in the trash? Fuck no. Then right here, we have something you won't see in the vast majority of computers. You're only going to see this in audio, professional commercial studios. This is the Lynx AS16E card. So this will give you 16 digital inputs and 16 digital outputs for very high-end DACs and ADCs that you'd have in like an audio studio. So you can hook up some high-end audio equipment. You're not going to see that on your typical desktop. Like I said, this is a workstation. You expect to see workstation things, right? So this can be a professional digital audio workstation at like a studio because he has that connectivity on here. Pretty dope. Like, oh, why don't you use SPDIF or whatever's on here? Well, you'll be using the Realtek controller and Realtek's shitty software to mess with stuff. And plus, Toslink, the jitter on Toslink's not the best. This SPDIF on your motherboard's nothing compared to a professional digital audio interface using ASEBU. And then here we have a 10 gig Mellanox ConnectX 2 fiber card. We have a 10 gig SR FS SFP module that's in here. These just pop right out. See, SFP modules. You plug like ohm 3 or ohm 4 fiber optic cable into it. So there's that. Yep. And then we have our RTX 3070, which will give us 1 HDMI output. These are just covers, by the way. You want to keep these in if you're not using these ports, but he'll be using the 3 display ports. So you got 1 HDMI, 3 display ports. And of course, you have your Realtek onboard audio, which none of that will be used. That's all disabled. It's all garbage. Throw it away. You have 2 USB 2.0 ports. You have 2 1 gig Intel NICs, which is nice. I like to see Intel NICs, but those will be disabled because we're using 10 gig fiber. And then you have 2 USB 2.0 ports, another 2 USB 2.0 ports. Then you have a, or these are 3.0, sorry. All these blue ones are 3.0. Then you have a 10 gig USB 3.0 port. And also you have a Type-C on there. Look at that. Even though this motherboard's from 2016, it has that modern feature of having a Type-C. And both of these are 10 gig ports. So if you have like a big USB hub that you're going to set like on your like table or whatever for easy access to plug in flash drives and portable SSDs and stuff like that, or card readers, you'll want to plug your hub into this 10 gig port just to get the most bandwidth out of all those devices. Then you have another 2 USB 2 ports, and you also have a PS2 port. I love to see PS2 ports, but this is a combo. So if both your mouse and keyboard use PS2, you have to have a breakout adapter or whatever, which I don't like that. I like to see 2 dedicated PS2 ports, but most of the time your mouse will be USB, your keyboard will be PS2. If you're a hardcore person like me, you'll use PS2. But it's nice to see PS2 on there. But that's just the back I/O. Of course, you got I believe this is it's either a 120 or it's a 140 millimeter back exhaust fan. So that's the back of here. But anyway, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and update the BIOS, tweak the BIOS settings, install the operating system, the drivers, and we'll see. We'll run some benchmarks and see how this runs and performs. See you guys then. Okay, so we have Windows 10 installed. We have the BIOS updated and tweaked, and we did the Windows updates. And let me tell you something about these Windows updates. They do take a while to install because it will sit on like 100% download for like 30 minutes to like 45 minutes. It's so crazy. Anyway, we're going to test the benchmarks, some of the benchmarks here. We have a few Unigen benchmarks installed, and we have user benchmark, and we'll also run AIDA64 just to make sure if we stress the hardware to its limits, it's not going to blue screen or it's not going to just crash. Make sure the power supply is holding up. And I noticed that, let me turn my flashlight on again so I can look at the computer. I noticed that when I'm looking at the graphics card, none of the fans are on. This is a 3-fan system, so maybe because we're not really pushing it, it's sitting idle, the fans are off. Maybe it's a fan profile. So that's something I'm going to keep an eye on when we start pushing the machine. I'm going to hope those fans are going to be kicking on, because right now those fans are turned off. So if I go into Task Manager, we'll see right here and under Performance, we have the GPU. NVIDIA GeForce RTX 3070. Okay, I'm not sure how well you guys see that. I know I'm recording a screen with a camera, but when you do benchmarks, you don't really want to using the screen recorder unless you have like a capture card, which I don't have one of those. But you see we're sitting around 0 to 1% usage on idle, and the GPU is around 34 to 35 degrees Celsius. So there's our utilization. We're running driver version 27, 21, 14, 66, 47. So we got our RAM 120 gig, and it is clocked down to 2133, which is the maximum the memory controller of this Xeon can take. So I had to tweak some of the timings, so we had a bit more tighter cast latency there. But our CPU. Now this is a weird thing because I went into the power options and set it to maximum performance. And when you set power options in Windows to maximum performance, it's supposed to keep the CPU clocked at its base clock the entire time, 100%. Whereas if you have like imbalance or power save, it will downclock the CPU when you're not pushing it hard or when it's idle. If we notice right here that our speed is jumping all over the place, even though I have it on maximum performance, and the minimum CPU state's set to 100%. So this should stay at 3.5 gigahertz. But as you guys see, it's even though the computer's sitting idle, it's just moving everywhere. So I don't know if either Windows isn't reporting it right. I have to look in HW monitor, or something's weird. You may think, oh, maybe it's thermal throttling, maybe it's thermals. Well, see, here's the thing: the motherboard has a LED on it that tells you the CPU temp, and it is 33 degrees Celsius. And it's jumping from 32 to 33, which that is excellent. I mean, mine idle usually runs around the 40 range, the 40s. But we are downstairs, and it has been an air conditioner running, so the thermals are excellent. So you think it would stay clocked. But as you can see, the speed's just, the clock speed's jumping all over the place, even though I have the performance options set to maximum. So I have to do some more digging there. Maybe it's just Task Manager is just not reporting it correctly, or I don't know. But yeah, that could be a potential issue I have to look into more. So as far as benchmarks, we have Unigen, and I have Heaven benchmark, I have Superstition, and I have Valley. So let's go ahead and run the basic Heaven. Now this screen that we're driving a single screen at 1080p, and this screen is only 75 hertz. So anything above that is not going to matter. Let's see, advanced display options. Yeah, right here. Well, it says 74.986. So I only got a single monitor. We're only driving a single 1080p monitor at 75 hertz. This isn't a gaming monitor. It's just an IPS panel. But anyway, I digress. It's on DirectX 11. This is an older benchmark, so you're not going to really push it the to its maximums. I could put all this stuff on maximum, but we will do that later. Let's just see how it runs just with defaults at 1080p 75 hertz monitor. Now, if you go, your FPS are above 75 hertz, you're basically throwing those frames away because it's not going to matter anyway. But we'll see what happens here. And I am going to keep an eye on the GPU. Since we have something a little bit more, putting a load on it, it should do something. Now I'll start the benchmark. You have to click to start benchmark. So I'm looking up in the right hand corner, which you're not going to see this very well. I'll have to zoom in. The FPS is around 290 to 300 something. Yeah, like 350. Temperature of the GPU went up to about 57, 58. Temperature is up to 62 degrees. I believe that's the temperature of the GPU. It's reported, not the CPU. Our audio is working because the monitor has a built-in speaker, so NVIDIA is spitting out an HDMI audio signal there. I'm going to look at the GPU right now. The benchmark's not running. It's just doing the preview thing right now. But I'm going to look at the GPU, and yes, all 3 fans are on. Yep, all 3 fans are spinning now. They're not spinning very fast. It's more like on maybe like a medium to a low. I noticed the 3rd fan, maybe it's just the way the sticker is. It looks a little wobbly, but just the center of it. But I don't hear any like, bearing noise or anything. So the fans are okay. They're all operating. So we'll go ahead and click the benchmark. Now it's actually running the benchmark. And our FPS and everything's down in the corner. So I'll put a little zoom in on that. I don't know how well you guys can see that FPS counter down there. But Heaven's not that crazy of a benchmark. I mean, so looking around the numbers I was getting with my 2060, maybe a little better. I told him it would be throttled, but see, even though we're averaging like 300 FPS, that is more than enough. I mean, you're not even gonna see it on this monitor. And the minimum, yeah, that's when it switches scenes, and that's when it really pegs everything. That's normal for it to dip as low as that. We're more concerned about your average. And of course, it's going to play the music. Hopefully, this music is not copyrighted, but you guys probably aren't hearing it that loud anyway, because my microphone is pointed opposite of it. But yeah, the computer hasn't crashed yet. I mean, this isn't going to push it too hard. So, but I am kind of concerned why our CPU clock is bouncing around all the time. I want that to stay a solid 3.5 gigahertz, especially since we're on maximum power on the power options. That's weird. But yeah, our FPS is staying okay. What is it? 280 something. No, it's still benchmarking. This benchmark takes a few minutes. But yeah, I don't know how well you guys can see. You probably can't see it at all. Maybe if I can get my camera to focus up there. Might be out. I might be out of frame. Yeah, there it is. Can you guys see it okay now, maybe? We'll say the let me get closer here maybe. So there's that. I don't know if you guys saw that, but obviously, hopefully you saw where it said 3070. 3070 in a workstation. See if I can get the zoom on that. Focus. There we go. Still benchmarking, still running. Right now, we're averaging, it's back in the high 200s, back in the 300s. The fan's kicked up a little bit. It's making a little bit of noise, but it's not too bad. I would not have this sitting on my table. This workstation. I probably need to adjust the fan curves in it, but yeah. And that little choppiness that you see when those things go by really fast, that's pretty normal. It's just the benchmark. And this is using an older DirectX. It's using DirectX 11 and some older APIs and stuff, so it's not going to use all the newest technology to get, so we might even be able to get more performance out of the newer benchmarks, hopefully. Yeah, it bumped up to 400 there. Yep. Now we're in the low 200s. Creeping back up to the mid 200s. Okay, there's our benchmark score. I don't know how well you guys can see that on camera. But our average FPS is 284. Our score is 7166. Min FPS, wow. That dropped down there. I don't know what scene caused that, but that's pretty normal. You really are concerned about your average. Your average was 284. Our max was 490. And as you can see, it does show our specifications there. We're driving a single 1080p monitor. The quality was set to high, so I don't know if that's the default. Maybe there's an ultra high or whatever. And it's using DirectX 11. You know, as you see, our our kneecapping CPU, the Xeon E5-1650 V3 at 3.50 gigahertz base clock, which it should stay clocked at that since I have it on the right thing, but oh well. So let's save. And we'll just put this on the desktop. And we'll close it, and then we'll quit this. Could I set to higher? Sure. But I'm not worried about it. It's an older benchmark anyway, so you're not going to really push your GPU to the limits there. So there's that. Let's try another benchmark. If I can find it. Unigen. Let's try superposition. I don't know how you pronounce it. Okay, so we have 1080p medium. It's using DirectX. Should I set this to 1080p high? Yeah. I could do 1080p extreme. Let's just try 1080p high. Oh, it shows the VRAM down here. That's going to be utilized. Well, maybe. Yeah, like if you do 4K, it bumps up to like 4 gig or whatever. Let's do 1080p high. So we have 8 gig of VRAM. He's going to be driving 3 2K monitors, and that's when you want to have a lot of VRAM. VR ready, stress. We can also do a stress. But yeah, let's just do benchmark. Let's see what happens with 1080p high. He's going to be running 2K anyway. So it's loading. Let's see how long this takes. Come on. Yeah, the fan's kicked up a little bit because we're working it a little bit. And I think the fans are a little bit noisier than they should be, probably because this has been sitting downstairs for a long time. And there goes the AC. But it's probably because this has been sitting downstairs for a long time and has dust on it. So now it's benchmarking. Ooh, yeah, this is definitely pushing her a little bit harder. So in our corner, which you probably cannot see on camera, we're averaging about 140 FPS. Utilization of the GPU is 97%. The GPU temperature is about 63 to 64 degrees Fahrenheit. Our graphics card's clocking at 1850 megahertz. Memory's at 7,000 megahertz. Our minimum FPS is 124. Our average is 140. Our max is 165. We rendered over 6,000 frames. Yeah, this one's pushing it a bit more. I think this benchmark's from 2016, 2017, so it's a bit newer. But yeah, this one's definitely making her work a little bit better. we're averaging about 150 FPS, 140, 150. And he's going to be running his monitors at 140 hertz, so he's nearing it. Now we're dipping a little bit. We dipped around we're in about the hundreds, 115 range. It's because there's a bit more going on at this scene here. Yeah, we're in the 100 range. Still, I think anything over 60 FPS is fine. But let me get my flashlight and look at the fans on this, because this is getting her going up a little bit more. We're about 80. We're about 80% utilization. Yeah, those fans look to be revved up a little bit more, but nothing too crazy. But yeah, all 3 fans are working. I don't hear any nasty noises coming from it, so that's good. But yeah, I'll try to get you guys a view on to the FPS counter. Okay, guys, so I was too busy looking at watching the benchmarks that my camera went off, so I don't know how much of the benchmarking we lost. So we were working on superposition or whatever it is. This is a more modern benchmark from like 2017, 2019-ish. We ran it at 1080p high, and the results we got from that was we averaged around 130 FPS. Our minimum was about 91 FPS, and this is a single 1080p monitor. And our GPU utilization was like 98%. So the GPU is definitely being bottleneck there. But we switched it to 1080p Extreme, and on 1080p Extreme, it dipped down to like the 70 FPS range, and our GPU utilization was staying around 98 to 99%. So the GPU is not really getting, it's waiting on the CPU, because the CPU is bottlenecking it there. But yeah, it would be crazy if you put this on 2K, because he really should have kept this at. He really should have used 1080p monitors. But I'll run this again to show you on Extreme, because I don't think you got any of that. I don't know where we left off, so I do apologize. But let's run this again just to show you. So this is 1080p Extreme. It was running around 70 FPS, and our fans did kick up a little bit more on the GPU. So the fans are fine; they're working okay. But yeah, you see the copyright year on this, 2017 to 2019, and we are recording again, which is good. So it's running again. Our FPS counter, it's probably out of frame. Well, you probably can barely make it out. FPS is showing around like 73 FPS right now. Dip into around 66 FPS. So our average FPS, I'm gonna let it stabilize here because it's transitioning. That's so pretty, those tubes. That tube calculator. But it's averaging about 67.16. Yeah, it's averaging about 66 FPS on 1080p Extreme. And our GPU utilization is at like 98%. Our GPU temp is about 65 degrees Celsius. Our graphics is moving back and forth between 1.7 and 1.8 gigahertz. Our VRAM, however, is stable at 7 gigahertz. So I'm not going to let that run for too long, because it's going to stay around that. It's around, I'd say 65 FPS average with 1080p high using superposition. And on the 1080p high, it averaged like 130. So 1080p Extreme's like 65, 1080p high is like 130. So if he's going to be running 2K, he's probably going to want to have his texture packs on like medium or something like that. Don't put it too extreme, He obviously should have just ran 1080p monitors. But does he listen? No, he does not listen. Okay, so we ran Heaven. Hopefully that picked up on camera. And then we ran Superposition. Now we're going to run Valley. I think Valley is a little bit newer too. I think this is also an older one, but this is DirectX 11. Our quality's on high. Let's put it on Ultra. So this is Ultra 1080p. We got stereo 3D. I'll keep that off. Anti-aliasing. Won't mess with any of that stuff. Yeah, I'm just gonna set it to high, to ultra, and then we'll run it. So we're making her sweat here. And Xeon's like, I'm not really designed for gaming. I'm more designed for running servers and stuff. But yeah. Oh boy. Yeah, it doesn't like ultra. Oh, there it goes. It took a while to wake up there. Oh, we're not too bad. Our FPS is averaging like 150. Oh, it bumped up there. It's hitting 200s. So our graphics says 2100 megahertz, and our memory says 7001 megahertz. Our temperature on our GPU is 62 degrees Celsius. So, yeah, it's averaging like 170, so that's not bad at all. And those little quirks, that's just how the benchmark is. It does that on like every computer, so. Yeah, it says like it's 160, 170 range. I'm gonna look at the fans, see if they kicked up any higher now. And we haven't had any blue screens. We haven't had the computer just turn off on us, so the power supply must be holding up. But we haven't been running this too heavy. Yeah, those fans are going, but I'd say they're probably going like at a medium speed. So it's working. The real test to stress the computer would be 8 to 64, where it'll like peg the CPU, the GPU, everything, and even the RAM at once. Yeah, the FPS is averaging like 150, 160 range. So if I click on benchmark, now it's actually going to bring up the benchmark screen. And FPS, see, it's weird because the FPS at the top is different from the FPS at the bottom. So the FPS at the bottom showing around like 153 FPS. Yeah. So, I mean, that's fine. It's over 140. It's at 1080. This is 1080 benchmarking now. We'll see. Yeah, it's about 157 FPS. 156. I'd have to go back and see what my results were with my 2060, but I think I saw similar FPS ranges on these benchmarks. Now, this one doesn't tell you the utilization of the GPU, but it's probably up there because it's waiting on the CPU. I think there's like a ringing in like the music of this, so it kind of sounds like there's a smoke detector going off in the background, but I think it's just something in the audio of this benchmark. So now it's raining. Looks like a forest. But yeah. It's really pouring down, and it actually is pouring down outside, believe it or not. And our FPS while it's raining is like 150 FPS. Yeah, it's staying around 150, dipping a little bit to 147, but yeah, right now it's at 146. So it's really pouring down. The wind's picking up and staying around 145. Like I said, if it's over 140, it's his monitors. It doesn't matter. They see their throwaway frames. But see, all these frames are pretty much throwaway frames because this monitor is 75 hertz. So, honestly, for gaming, yeah, that's a discussion for some other time. But people say, oh, you got to have 140 hertz or 240 hertz. No, you don't. But as long as you're gaming, as long as your FPS is staying above 60 FPS, it should be pretty smooth for the most part. Yeah, we got 138 FPS right now. And these benchmarks, they take like 5 minutes to run. And see, when you first open them up, you'll think they're running. No, they're just doing a preview. You have to click on the benchmark button before it starts actually recording it. And by recording it, I mean like tracking it, you know. So there we go. There is our Unigine Valley. We got 139 FPS average, and this is on Ultra. So our score's 5848, minimum FPS. Oh, minimum FPS is actually better there. Better than the Heaven benchmark. Our max FPS is 222. So, hey, that's doing all right. My opinion. Desktop. Save, close. Quit. So there is what was it, Valley? There's Valley. Look good? I say it's fine enough for me. So we have Valley. So we ran Heaven, superposition. We ran Valley. There's also user benchmark. So I can go ahead and run that. I think this is just a portable that runs. So I'll let that run. Yeah, so it's going to test processor, graphics, the drives, the memory, and the USB drives. Oh. I don't want to run it against USB drives. Let me eject this USB drive because this USB drive is slow. I don't want it to benchmark the USB drive because it's going to wear it out. Let's do this again. And it still shows it, but there's no USB drive, so that's good. We'll hit run. Close this out. And now it's going to run the user benchmark. And now it should be working the CPU here. And the GPU and the hard drives and everything. So I'm going to keep an eye on the fans here. All the fans, actually. So right now, the fans on the GPU are off. So as soon as we stop those benchmarks, the fans kicked back off. But I'll see if they kick back on here when this maybe starts testing the GPU again. But yeah, all our fans seem okay, but the fans on the GPU are back to off. So we'll see when this kicks back up and starts testing the GPU again. Because right now the fans are back off on the GPU. So right now it's testing all the SSDs, and I can see the hard drive LED light is just pegged to the floor there. We have 3 different SSDs in this. So, to be expected there, right? When is it going to test the GPU? It's testing it's testing all of our SSDs out. And like I said, you don't want to just run benchmarks all day because this, especially ones that are writing to your SSD and stuff, they'll wear out your SSDs. So you only really do it when you first build the computer, just to make sure things are working. So there's a GPU test. I'm going to check to see if the fans kick back on. Nope, the fans are off. The fans are still off. Oh, the fans just kicked on. Yep, the fans kicked on. The fans are back. Yep, the fans are on now. Probably like a medium state. So now it's actually going to test the it tests the GPU there. It really gets it going. I don't know how well you saw all that. We saw some pretty GPU tests. So it's testing the GPU out. I'll tell you right now, we're not gonna have the best gaming score because we don't really have the single core performance on our Xeon for that. But it should still be an okay computer, right? By okay, I mean fairly decent, but just not like an ultimate gaming PC, That's going to be another build. When the funds permit and Abe is ready for it, we're going to build him an ultimate gaming PC, which is going to be built for gaming. Like, this wasn't really, like, this workstation, the components stuff I chose for this when I did mine, it was not with gaming in mind, because I don't game. I built it just for a workstation, a kick-ass computer for my needs, which I'm not a gamer, and I wanted it to have full support for Windows 7 and stuff. So those were my needs, and Abe just copied my workstation build. I guess he's kind of thinking, oh yeah, it's going to be a gaming rig. Well, it can game. It's just not going to be the ultimate gaming rig. I'll tell you that much. But it's still doing some more tests here. So we'll see what's going to go on here. These benchmarks going to take a while to run. I'll tell you what. There we go. Now I think it's uploading our results to user benchmark. And there's our results. So, not too bad. It actually says we're a UFO at gaming. I don't know how well you guys can see that on the screen there. There is our performance results. So gaming, it says we're a UFO. Desktop, it says we're an aircraft carrier, 89%. Workstation, it says we're 117. I would expect it to say we're a workstation because we are. I mean, we're built for that. But yeah, that's kind of funny. It says we're good at gaming. Well, I mean, we do have a 3070 in it. So, right here, overall, this PC is performing above expectations. This means that out of 100 PCs with exactly the same components, 35 perform better. So that means you're performing above most people. Because saying there's 100 of them, only 35 were able to perform better than you. The overall PC percentile is the average of each processor with a brilliant single core score. This CPU is the business. There's upgrade Xeons for this, trust me. Graphics. 153% is an outstanding 3D score. It's the bee's knees. This GPU can handle almost all 3D games at very high resolutions and ultra detail levels. Yeah, but don't run it at 2K with a Xeon. Boot drive, ROS, everything says it's good. We scroll down. So our Xeon's actually performing a bit better than everybody else's. You can see the little chart graph here. Performing above expectations. Now here, this is what I'm telling you. So right here, we have our NVIDIA RTX 3070. And right here it says performing below others. You know why? It's because people that are buying this GPU are putting it in a modern build with a modern high frequency CPU, such as a 10900K. They're not putting these in Xeon workstations. So obviously, compared to other people running their 3070s, we're going to be below. But actually, if you look at this chart, we seem to be right in the middle. So we're not doing too bad. But still, it's being bottlenecked. Our SSDs, like our 860 Pro, the 860 Pro always best SATA SSD. That's most reliable. That's always what I put my OSs on. Don't worry about NVMe. 860 Pro is really good. And ours always performs better than most people. You know why? Because I install Intel Rapid Storage Technology, and I install Samsung Magician. And then we have our 970 Pro that's performing pretty well. Our 870 QVO game drive, which is performing very well as well. Because you know why? I installed RST, which gives it a bit better SATA driver. Our RAM, our RAM is going to be a bit bottleneck because we'll have to downclock the frequency because of the memory controller and the CPU. So I had to tweak some of the timings. Our latency is what's killing us the most, but there's not too much I can do on that. The upgrade Xeon, I might be able to get a bit better timings, and it'll run at 2400 instead of 2133. But with this, when you're using a Xeon and you're using ECC RAM, your latency is not always going to be the absolute best. But day to day, are people going to notice nanoseconds of latency? No, but this is more of just, if you want to be on top of the charts or whatever, you got to, have faster timings and stuff. But I knew that was going to be a bottleneck. But yeah, our RAM, there's not too many benchmarks on this RAM because it's, it's workstation RAM. But it tells you can pick a game, and it'll tell you what your average FPS is going to be. Oh, it's asking you. Oh, it's asking you to submit your FPS of these games. Oh, well, we can't do that. So you got the typical X990 workstation builds. I think we're above that. Yeah, see, people are usually putting, like right here, the GPUs that people are putting in these, like the 1080 Ti, the Quadro RTX 4000, the 1080, the 2060, around that tier. Because the 1080 Ti performs around the 2060 level. So those are the kind of GPUs that people are putting in these boards. They're not putting a 3070 in it. But, yeah. So there we go. We put a 3070 in a workstation. Okay, so we're going to run 8 to 64, which this will actually stress. This will actually stress the CPU, the RAM, everything. And this will tell us, hey, is our computer gonna crash when it's being pegged to the absolute max? So let me find where the benchmark is. Right here, benchmark. So we got system stability test right here. This is what you're going to want to use when you want to make sure that you're now this is paid software, but there's a trial which we're using. I since I work on computers and I'm an IT professional, I actually might buy like the fucking professional version of this, but that's down the road. So this will actually stress the entire computer. Now when you click stress GPUs, it will fully peg the GPU. So it's normal to where you move your mouse and the mouse lags because it just floors everything to the absolute max. So it's normal if the computer acts kind of unresponsive where the mouse is really lagging a lot. But as long as the computer does not blue screen, as long as it doesn't crash, and as long as there's no smoke coming out of it, your computer is going to be fine. So we have stress CPU. That's where it's going to peg the CPU. Stress FPU. Stress the cache, which is the CPU cache. Stress the RAM. It's going to like max out your RAM all the way. So it's going to like the RAM, you have like what, 120 gig RAM? It's going to fully floor that RAM out, which is awesome. So it's going to put a lot of data into all the RAM. It's going to really work that RAM out. You have stress local disk, where it's going to just floor all the SSDs with data read and writes, which we're not going to do that because I don't want to wear out the SSDs, and we don't need to do that. And we have stress GPUs. So it says there's something wrong. It says the video driver talent detection recovery display is configured to it. It may cause video driver to be reset when running. Do you want to fix this? Yes, I do. Let's hit start. There we go. CPU is at 100%. Our temperatures seem to be around 33 still. That's kind of crazy. So I move the mouse. Mouse ain't lagging. That's good. So right now the CPU, everything should be pegged. I'm going to check to see if the fans on the GPU came back on. Oh yeah, they're back on. No blue screens. Hey, and the mouse is still responding. Let's check our performance. Oh, we got a little bit of lag there. Here we go. Woo! Buddy. So our CPU is clocked at 3.78 gigahertz. What? What? I have to look up the turbo on this because I believe it. Maybe it does turbo up. Our CPU is at 3.78 gigahertz solid, 100% utilization. We're not blue screening. We're not crashing. Nothing's failing on us. Look at our RAM, guys. Look at that. In use, 122 gig of RAM. Woo, baby. Woo. Nice. But we have a problem, though. It's probably because I didn't restart it because after that driver fix or whatever it was. If you look at our GPU is not working at all. See that? So I might have to restart it for it to stress the GPU. It's stressing the CPU and the RAM. And it's holding. And let me check the temps on what the temps say. Okay, so the temps are saying 55 degrees Celsius. That sounds more like it. So now that CPU is getting a little bit of heat on it now. That heat sink's actually working. But it's not the GPU is not being stressed, so I don't know why it's not working the GPU. So I'm going to stop that. And I'm going to close this out. And I'm going to restart this computer. Let's see how fast it restarts. Now, I told you this X99 workstation board, since there's so much going on with it, and it has to, you know, check the SPD of like 120 gig of RAM and stuff, it takes a while to post. It takes a while to post. But if you see here, you'll see what I mean here in a second. So we got MSI, got the little screen going on there. Let's see how fast it boots. And there we go. We're already in the desktop. And I know it's out of focus. There we go. That's how fast it boots. Not too bad at all, huh? Not too shabby. It's the same thing on my Windows 7 build. Boom. Boots right up. That's why you gotta love SSDs. 860 Pro's solid. So let's run AIDA64 Extreme again. And let's see if it's actually gonna test the fucking test the GPU like I want it to. System stability test. So we have CPU, FPU, cache, RAM, and GPU. I'm gonna hit start. Let's see here. Is it gonna actually test out the GPU? Fans are definitely revving up. Mouse is still fully responsive. Let's open up Task Manager and see. Oh, look at the RAM usage on that, guys. Come on. Look at that. I mean, it's beautiful. I don't know how well you guys can see that. Can you see it better now? Look at the RAM usage on that. 112 gig. This is why you love having a workstation. Beautiful, right? And yeah, it's going to peg the CPU because we're benchmarking. So let's go in here. CPU's maxed out again. We're clocking at 3.78 gigahertz. Beautiful. And it's staying solid there, which is good. So it's not fluctuating around from that. It's not thermal throttling, which is good. Our RAM staying solid at 122 gig usage. Our SSDs aren't getting worked because we didn't stress those. But look, our GPU is not being worked. What is going on here? Look at the utilization of the GPU. 1%. So I'm not sure what is going on here. Why isn't the GPU being worked? I mean, it's not doing anything. Oh, it pegged up to 18% there for a second. Huh. So I'm going to stop that. I'm not sure why the GPU is not being worked. Huh. Oh, there's ray tracing. Ooh. Now I think we're pegging the GPU. Nope. We're not. Huh. There's us. Not too bad. I mean, you got a Ryzen, you have a 6850K, a 6700K. I mean, we're on a Xeon. Maybe this tests the CPU. It doesn't test the GPU. Huh. I don't know why this is not testing out our GPU. But we had utilization. We ran the benchmark, so what more can I say? Let's go ahead and check out CPU-Z. Let's see. Do we have a real 3070? What do you guys think? Do we have a real RTX 3070 in here, or did we get fucked like we bought on, what is it? Wish? Yeah, Wish. Did we get fucked like we bought on Wish? Where they put in a crappy GPU and you actually look at the chip die and it's something different. So we go to graphics right here. NVIDIA GeForce RTX 3070. Our actual GPU core is a GA104-300. And if this was if this reported as a 3070, but the actual GPU was like something different, like an old ass fucking Quadro card or something, CPU-Z would say, "Hey, this is counterfeit." It would give you a little warning that would say that. So look at that. This is legit. Is that beautiful? I'd say so. We have SPDs. We're running at 16, 16, 16, 38. Yep, that's correct. So my timings that I set in the BIOS were good. Yep. You can really tell this is an older Xeon, 140 watt TDP. Oof. 22 nanometer technology. Oof. The upgrade Xeon, I believe, is 14 nanometer. So that's good. So that works. We got Crystal Disk info. We can test out. Oh, wow, that's this. Crystal Disk Mark. We can test out the SSDs. Make sure those are performing. So if I open these up and say we test out our NVMe drive, right? How do you think our NVMe drive is going to perform? Well, let's take a look. Yeah, it should be in for NVMe. We should be getting some NVMe-like speeds. See? Yep, coming in solid. About 3.5 gigabytes a second. There's NVMe's are working okay. There's SSDs, they should all be working okay. I wish I had more things to bench the GPU with, but we worked it. It didn't crash, so that's good. That's a good thing. You don't want you want to make sure you have enough power supply capacity. Because when those 3000 series GPUs kick on, they really, take a toll on the power supply. Yeah, all those performances are just excellent right there. That's good. This is a 970 Pro. Samsung, of course. So those are excellent results. We'll let it keep running here. There goes the stupid air conditioner again. Now the bottom two are always going to be sucky. That's just how it is. That's normal. Yep, those are normal. Actually fairly good. That's actually pretty damn good performance there. I'm impressed. Yeah, the GPU works. I don't know what kind of FPS he's going to be getting in games at 2K. I told him you don't expect a game on 3 monitors at once. I mean, most games are only made for 1 monitor. He's like, I know. I'm like, okay. No smoke, no fire, no flip breakers, which I'm shocked, right? Now let's see how our rate performance is. What do you guys think? Think it's gonna come in solid? I think it is. Those are looking just fine. Like I said, those are looking healthy. All this is looking healthy. Except the fact that he's bottlenecking his GPU, What do you guys think? Think it looks good? I think it looks good. I think I'll stop it there. We know his NVMe drive is performing perfect. There's nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with the SSDs. We have hardware info. 64. Hit run. We'll see what this says. I do want to see if the CPU is still bouncing around. No. Well, yeah, it was on a couple cores, but over here it's saying that we're clocked at 3.8 gigahertz. And they're sometimes going down to 1.2 gigahertz, a couple of the cores, which it shouldn't be doing that. See, when you have this on maximum power and power options, it should stay clocked at the usually it stays clocked at the base clock or the turbo. Yeah. And there's our GPU again. MSI RTX. I don't know how well you guys can see that on camera. I have a small screen, so I can't really read it, but I'm pretty sure you guys can read that. 3070 Ventus. It says the GA104-300 is the actual GPU chip being used, which that's correct. Yeah. It's using Micron DRAM there, or VRAM I should say. And there's the 3070, which might need to back it out a little bit more. There we go. So I think I'm going to wind this video down now. I think you guys seen everything we need to see. I'll go into hardware monitor and see what this is reporting as far as temps and stuff. It takes a couple seconds for it to pull it in. Here we go. Voltages, our temperatures, our system temps. All our temps are looking okay there. Those are fine. Our fans are all giving us RPMs. So our Xeon. Look, you even got temperatures on all the RAM. So our 3070 is running around let's see, 41 degrees Celsius right now. That's a little warm, probably because it needs to cool down after all those benchmarks. I can't blame it, can you? Our utilization is low. But we'll go back to the Xeon. Where is this clocked at? Oh, right here. Yeah, some are clocked at 3.799, some are down to 1.2. So it is moving around. Why? I don't know. It shouldn't be moving around like that on high performance. Yeah, see the speed there? See where it says speed? See how it's moving around a little bit? But it wasn't as bad as before, so I guess it stabilized. Huh. Interesting, huh? But this is where I'm going to leave this video, guys. Have any questions? Are you going to say, hey, you're fucking nuts putting a 3070 in a 2011 V3 socket? Yeah, I know. But gotta have a little fun every now and then, right? So that's that. This is the video. Working just fine. 3070 and an X99A workstation board using Intel Xeon E5-1650 V3. Thanks for watching.